Hello? 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 Okay. Okay, can you all hear me? Please let me know on the Tuesday class channel. You can hear me, please, on the Tuesday class channel. You should be able to hear me. So we're going to be here in the Tuesday class channel. And that's where I can see everybody at the same time. Okay, great. Thank you so much. So we just 2 more minutes. Some of you sent me the work that you all did. Great job. It makes me happy to see when you share the code, because then I can see that you are understanding the class, and that we can move along. And also, if I can see where I need to put more direction, I need to add some direction on some more detail. So that gives me a good feedback about how to proceed. So there's some of you shared the code this morning, earlier today, so I gave them feedback. The link is on the class link, Tuesday link. There's some people joining. So if you can, also if you are on Slack and if somebody asks for the link, just let them know where it is, because there is a lot of screens going on here. So I'm gonna take off this mask. So I have 7 now joining. There is gonna be a little lag. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna talk slow, and then I'm gonna wait for all your questions on Slack. And since it's working, so let me see, just if everybody is here, let's look. And I'm gonna share it again just in case. So everybody has the right one, because the first one I did was the wrong one, because I had to close the stream and do the stream again. So that's the thing with YouTube. It's very picky. It's not like Zoom that you can turn it on and off. So if anybody, please, if you are on Slack on the Tuesday and somebody joins and asking for the link, I'll share the link with them. So, okay. Hi everybody. I hope you all doing okay. Have a beautiful day today. Hope you get to go outside a little bit. So thank you for joining me again today in your Tuesday. So today is the 3rd class. So if you can see me, here is the Slack. And of course, Slack, if you have it open, and if you don't have it open, you can use the YouTube comment. It's just there is a lot of things going on here. I have like 2 screens and 1 iPad, so I can stay connected. So you're gonna go here to the Tuesday class, and the lesson is right here for today, week 1.3, and this is what we're gonna do today. So like I said, some of you work on the little bit of homework. So last week about loops, and a lot of you work and share. I know Natalie and some others share with me this right before the class, so I'll try to look at it before I leave today and give you some feedback, but some of you already, I gave you feedback. One of the things about that I didn't realize, because I have been used to using Python so much, are the indentation. So if you are coming from a language that didn't require indentation, then Python is going to be a shift for you, because Python is very picky about indentation, extremely picky. And it's about structure. So because this is a higher level language, and as the language get more complex, these things that you'll have to write in code, they are not gonna written in code. Like for example, you can see here on the loop here, there is no end. So There is no beginning of end. The code knows where it ends, and the way it learns how it ends is about the indentation. So the indentation is a way of code also. So it's a negative code, it's a negative space, but it's the negative space means something for the Python. And when you start building more complex code, the indentations are actually going to help you to keep track of what's going on. So it's a way to organize yourself, to help you organize yourself, organize your thoughts. So it's very methodical, and some other languages they don't have indentation, but they have other particular things in the syntax. So I have put here on the how-to guides a couple things about style. Style is very important as you move along your coding experience, and if you want to be a career, eventually interview for a job, that's something that's going to be evaluated by other people if you work in a team, because every company or every team will have a style, because you have to be able to read somebody else's code. So if in a team and you have a large project, everybody will write a little snippet of that code, and everybody should be able to read it and comprehend it without calling you. So somebody is so cannot hear any voice. So can you tell me in Slack if you can hear any voice? Somebody cannot hear any voice. So let me give you the link. You might be in the wrong link. Okay, okay, yeah, she might be in the wrong. So I'm gonna tell her, just go here. And I appreciate that what I had to put everybody through, because we don't have enough Zoom accounts. We have two, and we're booked. So we used to have one, and now we have two, and they're all booked on Tuesday. So it's very hard to find. So here on the how-to guide, you'll find different style guides. So I put a style guide for Python. It's very lengthy. This is one that CS50 uses. So this is like a college course, a professor giving you everything they know about style to prepare the students. And then there is a little short, go to the point, 3 practices to make your code, so you understand how to start writing your code and what you're looking for too, like in the future. Because somebody said, well, if we have indentation, it gets very, if you have a lengthy code, those indentations becomes more complex. Well, the thing is, we're going to talk today about functions, and the functions are going to shorten your code, and the idea is to have little snippets, and we're going to do a little bit of succinct. So you want your code to be very succinct. So this is as you get more experience, this is what you want to know now. Now you want to concentrate understanding the code and be able to change the code by yourself. But later on, you want to make your best efforts, try to write the less lines you can write, the less code you can write. And the code has to be like when you read good literature, when you read a good essay, it has to be that way. It has to be easy to read and understand. The more complex and succinct code is the one that can be understood even by somebody who doesn't know computer science. So think about, that's a high bar. I don't have that experience. I can teach you that, but I know by experience. Yeah, there is an echo and there is a delay. So just work with me with that. I'm gonna get a little bit, let me make sure I'm on the right. So, let's see. Let me check the sound. Okay. Yeah, let me see. Maybe, maybe this one. Okay. I have the mic on because I don't have to hear anybody. Okay, so I hope it works. Otherwise, I beyond my understanding of this. I'm to the point now. I don't want to learn anymore that I need to do. That I want to learn with Zoom and all these things because I'm using OBS to fit to YouTube. So it's like I learned OBS, which is what I have to use to talk to YouTube, and to the point now I don't want to learn anymore. Okay, so let's go to the code that it was done. So a lot of you are posting. I cannot look at your private posting now, but I'll promise I'll look at it. I'll look at it after class, but I'm gonna look everything that is here on the Tuesday class. So if you wanna put your code on the Tuesday class, then other people can look at it and I can talk about it. But I can, you can post your, in the private ones, like some of you are doing, that's welcome, but I'm gonna be able to look at it later. So let's talk about how many of you did or who didn't understand the triangle. So we talk about the triangle about one loop. So it was just one loop, and the loop has to run 3 times. And first we started, you can see here the output. This loop is gonna just print a line. So anybody has any questions about this code? So we just have a simple loop. It's gonna run 3 times. So n, let me make it a little bit bigger. N is the variable, and the variable is 3. So it's gonna run. The variable is 3, n is 3. So the range is 3. So it's gonna be 0, 1, 2, and it's not gonna run 3. So j is gonna take value 0, 1, 2. And also, one of the things I told somebody, ask if you wanna look at the values of the variables tag. So for example, if you wanna see what is the value, the instant value of j, you can just put here a code, print, and then you're gonna put j equals, so you know what you're trying to do. And you close the quotes, and then you put a comma after the quotes, and then you type j. So what it is gonna print j column and the value of j at that moment. So if the value is 0, you're gonna see it's gonna print j column 0, and then when it's 1. So that's a good way for you to maybe work on, see how the code is working, while like see how it's running. So somebody asked me about it. The only thing you have to be careful, if you are copying this from a word processor, from Slack, make sure you're using a code editor. So if you're copying from Slack, make sure you're copying from the code editor in Slack, because these quotes in some other they don't copy the same way on, and you're gonna get an error. So some of you find that out. So this one is just gonna print a line, a simple line, and it's just as easy as print this, and remember the end is just gonna make, it's gonna make it like it can print the next character right beside it. So then this is a more succinct code. So try, we did a loop now. So to print 1, 2, 3 question mark. But this is another way to do it. Instead of doing a loop, you just do actually you don't need this one. you just do print, and then in Python, and this is the thing that people like Python, is you can manipulate strings with integers. So that's why it's very useful for data science, because you can do all kind of stuff with variables and integers. So this is gonna do the same thing, this, but instead of using a loop, it's gonna times 3. So it's gonna print 1, 2, 3. And the end is just gonna allow not to have, it's gonna allow to the next character to print. So I'm gonna put this code here on Slack so you can test it out and see how it works for you. And it didn't do the way I wanted to do it. So let me do it, because I copied from somewhere else. So I have to do it line by line. So 1 second, because I didn't do it right. So I have to do this one, and then I'm gonna put this line here. So if you run that on your IDE, did it do it? Didn't do it. Okay, now it's gonna do it. Okay, if you take this on the IDE, you're gonna get that too. So you can see how this is helpful, right? Because now that saved me a step. That saved me a step because I don't have to do this loop. One of the loops is out. So you're gonna see when you do the 4x4, some of you did the 4x4, which is a nested loop. You don't need that inside loop. You just write this, and then it's gonna go to the next line. So to show you how that works, let's run it. So I had to find here it is. So I have here make it a little bit bigger because otherwise you're not gonna see it. So you can see here. So if you have any questions, just type it on the Tuesday class channel, please. So I can see your question because I can't see it right now. Too much stuff going on. So if you see this, the code here, let's try to take this one out for now, this one out, and this one out, and I'm gonna run it and see what happens. Well, it's gonna tell me that it's wrong, so I better fix it. So save. So I'm gonna run it here, and as you can see, it printed 4. So you can see here, I don't know if you can see it. Who lost their output? Somebody lost an output? I don't understand. You lost the output where? Output of my audio? I'm sorry, I can't. The output. I don't know. Must be the output of the print. Oh, okay, you don't have to put the output. You don't have to put the output on the, I put it to show you. You don't have to put, I have to add the output to Slack. You're gonna add the code that you know you got the right output, right? So you can see here with the code, you're gonna see it's printed 1, 2, 3, 4. So I can change this forever. I can put 6, I can put 10, and you're gonna see, and let's put this print here so it shows up. So it's not, you can see it better. So I'm gonna put the print so it sends the line to the next one. So let's run it again. So here, so I just printed 10. And how many lines I use? 2 lines. So that's called a succinct. So we're just making the code simpler. So we took just a couple lines, how many lines we had before, and we can make it into one, or in this case 2. So you just save lines, and as you get better, you'll find ways to make that possible. But I just want to show you this trick here, and that's my come handy later on. So try that code and see. Let me write this code here so you guys can do it. Let me just take this out and put the indents. No, this is like I had it before, so you guys all can run it. I'm giving you all this code because I think everybody needs to try to be successful at first, to try something, be successful, rather than spend 2 hours battling something and then getting upset about it. So that's why I give you all this code. But after I give it to you, just try to change it and see if you can break it and then fix it up. So that's a good way. But I think everybody needs little successes, especially when you're learning something new, to make you feel confident about your path. So let's go to the next one. So let's think. So if you do the 4x4, try to see if you can use this new line of code with the times number, and see if you can make a 4x4, maybe a 10x10, maybe a 20x20 grid. Think about that. So then the next one, try to do a user input. So what is a user input? So anybody knows? You can write it on the Tuesday class. So anybody knows what a user input? We do that every day on our phones, on our emails. I mean, yeah, it could be from a terminal, but there is a general way. What is a user input? It's more like a general question, like, for example, if you have an app in your phone, they all have user inputs. So if you Google, that the user will enter the data. Yeah. So it's a user input is to make it like when you go to your Google site to search something, your Google input is what? It's what you search for. So if I go here to Google, if I Google CS50 IDE, that's my user input. This bar here, this empty bar, it's asking me for an input. So this is what's called in software design a user input. I'm getting the user, the people who are going to use this application, to give me an input. Okay, so in this case, it's CS50 IDE, which is a term that I'm looking for. It's a site I'm looking for, but it could be also a definition. So you can put here, you can read, and that gives you a definition. So it's a different kind of answer for two different kind of user input. One is the Google knows that I'm asking, or kind of know, is the way it's indexed. It knows that it gives me a website. And the second one, when I type indentation, it's giving me a definition. So that's an user input. So what you want to try is to make this interactive, because the whole point of software design, and we're doing this, is to get inputs from somebody, either from a user, a human being, or from a machine. If you're working on collecting data from SAP or collecting data from another program, that's going to be the input to your program. So it could be that machine is going to be a user input, Like SAP is going to be the user input, or it could be a person. Uh, so we're going to talk about user input. So the first thing you need to know to get the code, the function, the built-in function, so a person can enter a number. So you can ask for a number to get entered into your program. You have to get something called get int. So this is the line that you're gonna use. I'm gonna put it here on Slack. Yeah, and passwords and logins, user IDs are inputs for your emails. So think about when you are on the phone or Facebook or whatever you use, what are the user inputs? So I'm gonna put this line here, and I have to put it in code so it doesn't get messed up. And that's the first thing that you do, so you can get this function called get lower score int. So that's gonna get an integer. So what is an integer? It's gonna be a number. So I'm not gonna ask for a string, which is a character, a letter. I'm not gonna ask for a word. I'm gonna ask for a number. So this is gonna recognize the number. If I put something else, it's gonna give me an error. And that comes from a library. So the CS50 has a library, and you learn that if most of the time you don't have to know that. It's dependent on what IDE, and you just Google where is this, or you can go into the libraries, but that's too much time. You can just Google. But there is a different libraries that are loaded up here on the CS50, and you just can pull all those built-in functions, so you don't have to do them again. You don't have to create a function. The program is going to give you that. So that's part of the library, of Python library, that is inside this IDE, and it's inside all of IDE. So I'm gonna call from CS50 import the built-in function called getInt. So this is the first line, and that line, and we're talking about style now, always put it in the beginning of your code, right here, all the way to the top. So we put, later on, you will have several of these lines. You're gonna have maybe 5 like this, where you're gonna call different functions. So you always put them there, and then you add some empty space, and then you start putting your variables, and then you put your function. You define your function here, and then you call your function. So we talk a little bit about functions if you were in session 1. So anybody that was in section 1, a function is, if you don't know what it is something you create, like a recipe that you're gonna call later. So this is what I'm talking about. You don't have to create this long code. You're gonna create a snippet. So the snippets are gonna be your function. So you're gonna create your recipe here of how to do something. So in this case, the recipe is called Get Mario. And it's just something you can make a more descriptive way. I will call it Get a pyramid. This is the pyramid. This is half the pyramid. So I will just call it Get half the pyramid. So this one you can call it any way you want it. And then you're gonna call it here. You're gonna call it here. So if you use Scratch, maybe you remember, you can move things to another program and you can remix. So this is basically similar. So you can save these functions in a file, and then you can copy paste, bring that function, so you can change it a little bit, but you don't have to do the whole thing again and again and again, because you might spend a day creating a function how to retrieve data. The next day you use that function to retrieve the data, and then you gonna manipulate the data, and then you're gonna export the data. So And then at the end, you're going to have three functions, one to get the data, one to manipulate it, one to export it. So then the following week, something is going to be different. You might have to use the same functions, and you don't have to redo them all over again. So it's like a recipe you have in your mind, and you use it when you need it. So the important thing is here, this is very important. That's the way you define your function, the F space, you get a name. Here you can call it whatever you want. It doesn't have to be get. You can call it whatever you want. You can call it after your name. I could have put my name here. Then in this case, we don't have any inputs, and that's the way we're gonna leave it like that. But you can have an input, parenthesis, and then the column at the end. And you can see there is no n. I put here a break, but we're going to talk about that later. So this is a function, and then I'm going to call the function here. So the way this runs, actually, is going to run this, and the program is going to save it. It's not going to run it. You're not going to see the output of get Mario at all. The output is going to come here on get Mario. So let's run it. I'm going to put this so you all can run it on your CS50 ID, and you can run it while I'm doing this if you can. You have enough room on your screen. So let's run it here. I have it. Where do I have it? I have it right here. Maybe, where do I have it? See, I get very distracted, so this is that triangle, so okay, that's the triangle. Okay, there it is. So this is my code, the same code, exactly the same code I just shared with you. So you can take this, all this, see, all this, you can take it, or I think you can just copy this code. You right click, you can take this and put it on the CS50, and then you put paste, and there it is. And remember, you can save it. You have to save it and make sure you save in the right directory. And this is triangle 3, and that's gonna be my user input. So that's the way you can bring things from Slack, but make sure the format on Slack is gonna be, so it's telling me that it's the same name I used before. So I'm gonna save it as triangle 3.3. 3.1 PY, and it's right here. So I'm gonna save it now. So that's the way you can take things from Slack and just put it on the CS50. So go ahead, if you can, run this code and see what you get. I'm gonna run it as well. Make this a little bit here so you can see it. So what is the name of this? I have to make sure I'm running the right one. So there it is. I'm running the triangle 2. So I'm gonna do Python, and this is my file, but make sure you call it the right way, because your file might be named differently. Triangle 2 PY. Okay, so let's see that we have a question. Yes. So I love that, Benita. I love that. So yes. That's my function right there. You see it? So what happened was, if you go to line, on mine is line 14. What does it say there? What does it say? It says, if you go right here where it says, enter a number between 0 and 24. So what is that doing? It's doing, that's what getInt is. GetInt is a function that is gonna ask the user right here to, this getInt is gonna print that, and then it's gonna store whatever number I give it. And it's gonna be stored in this variable that I call age. So it's gonna assign, we're gonna assign that value. GetInt is gonna get the number, the input I'm gonna give it right here on the terminal. And then it's gonna save it on age. Why age? Because I put the equal. So in Python, when you put this equal, you are assigning this value to this variable age. Okay? So any questions so far? Does make any sense, or is like totally nutty, totally bananas? So if you got this and you enter a number between 0 and 24, go ahead and enter a number between 0 and 24 and see what you get. So you can just press, I'm gonna put 10, and then I'm gonna press enter. So my user input is not very good design. Why? Because the 10 is too close to the 24. So I had to do some tweak there to make it more presentable. So I type 10 and I'm gonna click enter. And what did I get? I get this half pyramid of 10 rows. So maybe I need to find a way to make this user input a little bit more friendlier. So I'm gonna add a space, and you can play with that and put columns, and you can put a happy face. I can put a happy face here to make it friendlier, kind of like what Apple did in the old days when everything was gray. And Apple came up and said, no, we're gonna make things prettier. And that's what they did. So to get out, if you run out, you got tired of running this, you just write a number that is outside the range of 0 and 24. So you can just type 25. So I'm gonna write it again. See, now I get a happy face, see, because I type it here. So I haven't seen anything on Slack. Nobody has told me, oh, this is nuts, or yes, I'll get it. I want more. So I'm gonna wait a couple minutes of seconds to see if I get any inputs, any comments from anybody. Or maybe I lost the audio. Okay, good. I hear somebody, it makes sense. Maybe so everybody's running the pyramid over and over and over. When you get tired of running it, you can just, I think you can even type a letter and it'll come out. Oh no, it's gonna keep asking you. So if you type a letter, it's gonna keep asking you, but if you can put 90, it's gonna break the loop. It's gonna get out. So anybody else tried it? Okay, you want me to repeat any part of it? So, okay, you can tell me what part you want me to repeat, but I think I'm just gonna repeat from the beginning. So the user input, which is, somebody have an error, file pyramid. Yeah, but okay, I can look at it after the class. I'll look at it everybody's code. But right now, anybody knows about, I'm going to repeat about the user input. So the user input is going to happen because of this function called getInt. Yeah, the only way to get out of the loop is to do that. Yes. Yes. So the getInt is gonna display a message, and that's why you have here parentheses, comma, quotes, because anytime we do text, which is strings, we have to do quotes, and then it's in quotes. So everything that you put in between quotes is gonna it's gonna show in the prompt. So it's a prompt for the user. So oh, what did I do? So I'm gonna go here. I'm gonna run it again. So it says here, enter a number. Okay. Enter a number between 0 and 24. And you can modify this as much as you want. And then you're gonna enter, I'm gonna enter 5, and then you get this 5. And don't worry about the code in between for now, because I haven't talked about conditionals yet. So don't worry about it. The only thing I want you to understand is what is a function. So this is a function that you write, and then you're gonna call it here. See, this is the important part. This is where you're gonna call the function. And you don't have any inputs, because your input is what you are asking the user to provide the input. So you can just do this forever until you get tired. Of course, that code could be improved, because what happened is, if you notice, more that you run it, the pyramid, it gets truncated, because it's like, if I run it again, you see how, so this is an arrow. So what is happening is the variable is holding the last value. So next time you run it, it's gonna go to the next value. So so the way you have to, like, if you don't want this to happen, you have to figure out how to reset that variable. So anytime somebody enter that variable, it gets erased. But that's too complicated, and it takes too much time. So for now, just try to make it. But that's why the pyramid gets bigger, because the variables keep increasing, because those values are not being clear. They're not being purged. The values that are stored here for K and H, they are not getting purged. They're getting bigger and bigger and bigger until I exit, and then these values get purged and they start again in 0. So that's why that is happening. I don't know if you notice it. So there's things you have to remember here are, this is a function. So, and then the function get calls here, and then the getInt is gonna be your user input. So practice with your 4x4 or your half triangle, put a getInt. So instead of using giving you these values, putting you these values here, this is for the half pyramid, or what was it? Let's do the simple one, this one. So here, remember, I have put 3 to put three in a row. So imagine you put a user input line there, right here, inside the J loop. So now you tell the user to enter. So you don't have to give the value. You don't have to put this value anymore. So you can turn off this value and put that user input line inside of here. So you can actually interact. You can do n equal 4, n equal 10, n equal 20. So practice with that and try to make it into a function. Try to convert this into a function following the syntax here. Okay, so that's the takeaway. So this is the output, and then this is another way to do the half pyramid. I mean, this is the whole pyramid. So this is the whole pyramid. So one of the things, the challenge is to build a full pyramid, not a half a pyramid. And think about, some of you did it really good, and this is another way to do it. And this is something like I done this couple times, and anytime I teach the class, I learn a little bit more, so it becomes better. Like every time I try to tackle this one, it becomes better. So I have to say that I did this one like 2 years ago from scratch, and I forgot how I did it. So anytime I want to remember how to do it, I Google pyramid, because I know somebody made it already on C, pyramid, on C programming, language, and somebody will have something. So I just take from C, or you can, I know it's written in C because that was somebody's homework is like that. So I just translate it. And when you translate from another code, it gets messy and clunky. So after a couple iterations, this is what I came out. And then I was using the new succinct way to do it. And this is what it came out. So, so this is another way to do it, and you can see how I use this line. So try to change, I'm gonna put the two ones here. Well, you have that one, so let's put the other one. So try to use this line here for the pyramid. This is for the pyramid. So that's for the pyramid. And so you have the code here, so try to make this code, and again, you can copy paste it into your IDE and see if you can change the code, and instead use this line of code. So this line of code that I put on Slack is gonna take out this whole thing. It's gonna so all this is gonna go away because you're gonna put just one. This one is, you leave it there, but these two are gonna go away. So like I just did here. So see how this one, if you take this out, this is all it is. So it went from, of course, when I start, and some of you may notice, the one that you made is a little longer than this, has more lines. So the one I did before this one has much longer, more lines, and it was more clunky, and the variables had a weird math, and that's fine. So after a while working on it, I got to this, and then I moved to this one. So you have to keep iterating, working on it, and try to make it more less lines. So try to do this one and incorporate this line that I just gave you on Slack. So, and the main thing here for the pyramid is that the J loop is decreasing because you want less, you're gonna decrease because you're gonna start, let's see, you're gonna, one is the spaces. So, oh, this is what I wanted to talk about. This is what is so cool, because you don't have to do it in the half pyramid. So in the half pyramid, you just print your characters, right? And you tell them how many characters, and you're gonna have these steps. But what do you do with the other half? How do you know where you're gonna put that? Is you gonna put it here, or you're gonna put it here? So we're dealing with spaces. So spaces are a real thing in Python, in programming. Spaces is no, like, it's no a black hole. They actually live in our program. So what you need to do is, these are spaces. So from here to here are spaces. So for example, I'm gonna run this pyramid, the one that I have here, and this is pretty cool. So I have here spaces. I'm gonna start with eight spaces. So instead of spaces, empty spaces, I'm actually gonna put a letter there. I'm gonna put, right now I have, this one is gonna print spaces, but I'm gonna put a character there so you can see what I'm talking about. Maybe an X, yeah, an X. So I'm gonna save it and get out of this one, and then this is Python pyramid. The best way to explain this for me to show it to you. There it is. So you all can see these X's. Can you see these X's? Let me know on Slack if you can see these X's. So these X's are decreasing. So right now you have 9, then 8, then 7, then and so on. And what is increasing? You can see which ones are increasing. So when you're printing things from the left, you have to consider the spaces. So the spaces is not something like an empty space like we know physically. In programming, it's something. It's a positive. It's something. It's safe there. So I put the X so you can see what I'm talking about. So when you go here, these spaces are actually this X. But instead of putting X, I put, what did I put? Quote, quote, a space in the middle. So instead of printing an X, I'm just printing an empty space, nothing. So that's gonna allow this to happen. So as the spaces decrease, like they do here with this X, I'm gonna increase the hashes. So this is what is hashes. So you have a loop going less, and then you have like this, and then the other one is increasing. So play around with that, and if you want to try with the X's, I'm going to put this one on, and then you can change it to spaces. That's a very good exercise as we move into strings next week. So try to do that and change it a little bit. Let's talk before we go really quick about conditionals. So conditionals are if, else. So if this is true, this is not going to happen. If this is not true, this is not going to happen. So it's two choices. So they are, yeah, yes, 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 yes. So yes, you got it, Keiko. You got it. Yeah. So if you have quote, space, everything's gonna shift. So play around. It gets really fun when you start playing around and put in all kinds of things and you see how it's working. And it gets really interesting what you can make. But it's a good exercise. And once you get that, move into using the line I gave you above this other line. So I think I didn't add this one on code. Let me make sure. Oh, because let me type this one because I didn't. I'm afraid sometimes when I do stuff from the other sheet, it doesn't take it as code. There it is. Now it took it. So you can do this one. So do this one and then change it a little bit and see, change the X, change to X, put whatever you want, and you can understand how they're moving. And then you can use this line of code to make it smaller once you understand how the pyramid gets built. So now we're talking about conditionals. So conditions are two choices. So they are they're a binary choice. You either choose this one or choose the other. It's like an off switch. It's like if you turn on the light, it's on and off, and off. It can never be, you can never, these two options are always have to be opposite to each other. They can never be juxtaposed to each other because that's what people get confused with the conditionals, because your condition has to be absolutely be able, this else has to be absolutely opposite to the if. So if it gets a little bit fuzzy, then you're gonna get an error in, and it's not gonna be an error in syntax, it's gonna be an error on logic because it isn't a logic statement. So you cannot say if the cat is yellow and orange and then else, but I will accept something yellowish. You can't do that. It has to be completely disengaged from each other. So remember, when you have to have that in mind. So for example, this one is very easy code. Let me put this one on this condition before I'm gonna put this whole thing because this is a great way to practice. So I'm gonna put here, and you can take it and play with it since we're running out of time and play around with that. Let me put the other one. This is much bigger. I don't know why I don't do that. This. And try this one. And so play around with that. And you can turn off like this one. Let me see if I can put it here. This is much simpler. Oh, but see, when I do this, it gets crazy. So let me put it here. There it is. I have it nice and clean here. So try to play around with this code, and then I have here the different operators. So remember I told you in Python, 1 equal is you assign value to a variable, but 2 equals, it means it's a comparison. So for example here, if A is equal to B, so it's not 1 equal, it's 2 equals. So 2 equals is a comparison. So it's if A is equal to B, print this. If not, print is not equal. If there's the opposite of equal, not equal, you put a exclamation point in the front. And then you have your greater than, greater than, less than, greater or equal than. So just look at those, and there are way more. So you can play around with this prompt. I don't know if I put that one with the prompt. Yes, so I have here, you can practice also the prompt where you as a user, you need to put a number and it's gonna tell you if it's greater or not. This one is gonna tell you if it's greater or not. So if it's X is less, so it's you as a input, as a user, you're gonna input an X and a Y, and then they're gonna compare those numbers. So try that. And an example here, this is what is so great about Python. You can mix strings with integers and formulas all in one line. You don't have to do different lines, different prints. So this is one you can practice. Two, where it combines user input and also a combination of strings, integers, and formulas. And this is what is called manipulation of strings. So this actually takes the value that you enter. These things you have to do it over and over so you don't feel comfortable, because that's the only way to learn it. So if you feel comfortable with the conditionals, try to practice running two conditional snippetable, change the variable, change the name of the variable, change what they do, change the operator, try to add user input, and write a program. See if you can write a program for an or even number. And you can use math operators to try to in Python like they do here. So the even number is a little bit more complex, but so do it after you feel comfortable, because the only way to do an even number is to test that a number is even if it's divisible by 2, so you have to do a module. So here explains a little bit about module. And let me know if you have any questions. And think about what requisites is for non-even numbers. So what will be the requisite for non-even numbers? Okay, so this is all for today. I'm gonna look for your code on Slack. If you have any other code you want me to look at, I'll be happy to look at it. If you have any questions, let me know. So for homework, just keep practicing the conditionals and the user input. And next week we're gonna do more strings. We're gonna start doing different examples of strings manipulation. Okay, if anybody has any questions, I'm gonna stay in Slack if anybody got any questions, but I'm gonna stop the YouTube. So I'll see you later. Have a great evening. Bye-bye.